Ladies and gentlemen, it is my pleasure to welcome you to the maiden Brand Africa Forum 2010. We'll welcome our special guest, Simon Anholt, who amongst other achievements developed 3 major international surveys: the Anholt Nation Brands Index, the City Brands Index, and the State Brands Index. We also welcome our IMC board members, Mr. Ivan Khoza, we're always pleased to have you with us, partners from other African countries, from our continent, and leadership from the media and business. Brand Africa is a brand-driven, obviously, initiative to proactively drive Africa's reputation, image, and competitiveness. We seek to do this by creating opportunities for strategic discussions, dialogue, and platforms, to share insight, thought leadership, and best practices in building individual, and we understand that individual is as important, and if not more important, and the collective African brand and reputation. Hence our theme, driving Africa's image and competitiveness from Africa for Africa. It is worth stating and starting off with entrenching and endorsing what the mandate of the International Marketing Council of South Africa is. Our mandate is to build South Africa's nation brand reputation in order to improve South Africa's global competitiveness. So it's not just a nice thing to do, we do it with the objective of ensuring that we hold our own in the global space. We strategically sought to do this by capitalizing on the nation-building momentum and global presence created by the World Cup euphoria. And we did this by mobilizing the South African public and stakeholders to commit to a common purpose of South Africanism and to take action towards unity and sustainability. And we all know that messaging and all of the ideological thinking that goes behind things is not good enough unless we can translate that into action. And we also do this by aligning and entrenching the behavior and the culture displayed, firstly in our case, during the World Cup, that led to the success, which provided us with the brand value proposition. And it was South Africans that defined this brand. We now take this and reflect on the fact that our country adopted in its medium-term strategic framework for the period 2009 to 2014, the strategic objective of contributing to building a better Africa. As Africans, our destiny is linked to each other. Africa has a unique advantage if you consider that until recently, a significant ratio of the world's population considered it to be this one mass, one country, instead of a number of countries within a continent. This, Simon, was also echoed by yourself some 4 years ago at the World Economic Forum in South Africa, where you did say, Africa is not seen as 53 countries in various stages of development and struggle for independence. For independent existence and identity, but as a uniform, hopeless basket case. And this was duly promoted by, amongst others, aid agencies and aid celebrities as being no more than an ongoing catastrophe. A total Afro-pessimism prevailed. The inspiring news is that it is undoubtedly Africa's time. Is it the time, Is it the time to make it right or to entrench the perception? We can either use this as the time to make it right or to entrench the perception. But we do believe it is indeed Africa's time. And not because we hosted a successful Soccer World Cup, but because Africa is attracting attention in regard to foreign direct investment as a largely untapped market. As a largely untapped market. As the International Trade Forum publication indicates, the message of Africa does not accurately reflect its economic diversity, its entrepreneurial aspirations, or the optimism that goes with rising investment, growth, and greater stability. We understand that the world sees Africa playing an important role in continuing to help support the world economy post the global economic crisis. Our corporates are definitely also playing an important and critical role in this regard. As they continue to forge global alliances, their contribution impacts the growth of both regional and international economies, transferring skills and expertise which translate into fresh solutions in all areas where we work. Theirs is also a role that promotes the importance of public-private collaboration in maximizing opportunities on the continent. Mr. Anholt, we agree. It is indeed time to abolish the old Africa, brand Africa, and proactively showcase the other face of Africa, the best of Africa. As a continent, it is through forums such as these that we need to collectively and boldly tackle tough issues by addressing some big questions. Amongst these is how do we build effective institutions and governance structures? How can Africa gain a greater voice within global decision-making, rather than just being an agenda item? How do we foster growth and inclusive development? And in this regard, how can African countries create new economic partnerships and foster greater regional integration? How do we manage Africa's risks? What gains can come from rethinking the demographic challenges, particularly relating to youth unemployment and urbanization? How do we strengthen a mindset of empowerment? And very importantly in this regard, how can poverty and inequality be reduced and the Millennium Development Goals get back on track? How can Africans take responsibility for their own empowerment and the future of the continent? It is for this reason that countries in Africa have organizations such as the IMC. In spite of the socio-economic challenges, in spite of the competition for public funding and resources, it is a role of organizations such as Brand South Africa to provide the policy and strategy guidelines to coordinate in regard to a nation's brand, to ensure uniformity, to ensure that messages translate into behavior. And more importantly, ladies and gentlemen, is to evaluate and monitor our performance, so that we can attempt to improve our ratings within, amongst others, the World Economic Forum's Competitiveness Index, and of course, the Nation's Brand Index. Before I conclude, I believe it is appropriate to share with you an extract from a piece written by Julie Cunningham just this week, in South Africa Good News. And I must at this stage, understanding that we all follow this for purposes of inspiration or others, that if you've read it already, I think it's worth repeating. 2010, the year it became fashionable to do good. As we welcome 2010, the year of Africa's first ever Soccer World Cup tournament, all eyes turn to the countdown of what is the world's most watched event. As a nation, our focus and energy turn to nation branding and nation building. But the months leading up to June 2010 were uncertain as we battled our own doubts and international tabloid reports of machete-wielding gangs. We battled predictions that crime would make it the most dangerous World Cup yet. We battled reports of low foreign ticket sales and empty stadium. But as we all well know, we surprised the world and ourselves. But importantly, something else happened. Something which wasn't predicted or prophesized. The World Cup created a tipping point for many in our country. But it's not a tipping point that political analysts or economists are able to quantify or will even talk about. It's the tipping point that has mobilized the real South African citizen in the movement for good. South Africans experienced patriotism like they hadn't felt in years, or maybe ever. The camaraderie and shared experiences of ordinary citizens gave strangers a sense of belonging and left us with the realization that we are able to achieve what we set our minds to. The world gushed about Ubuntu. Terms like Ubuntu, the Vuvuzela, became Oxford Dictionary type entries soon. And it is. I am what I am because of who we all are. As we marveled that not all is doom and gloom in South Africa or in Africa, our new self-image and the positive media reports boosted our confidence. The South African citizen could eventually say, I can make a difference. Our thanks, ladies and gentlemen, for that piece goes to Julie Cunningham. I welcome you all to this very important summit and thank our partners, the Brand Leadership Academy and CNBC Africa, for initiating this critical conversation. Brand South Africa is truly honored to host the Maiden Brand Africa Forum.